Help others, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.
Shalom, my name is Joseph Shulam, and this is a very special mind candy. Today in the world, it's Purim, the Feast of Esther in English. Today is the 23rd of March. Tomorrow is the 24th of March. Today, Purim is celebrated around the world. Tomorrow, it's celebrated in Jerusalem, because Jerusalem is a walled city like Susa in the days of Artaxerxes, Achashverosh in Hebrew. And the command at the end of the Book of Esther is that in a walled city like Jerusalem, celebration will be one day later than in the open cities. So actually, today in Tel Aviv, in Haifa, all over Israel, they're celebrating Purim. Kids are dressed up with all kinds of funny dresses and masks, like Halloween a little bit. But in Jerusalem, it's tomorrow. And tomorrow is also my birthday. I was born on Purim on March 24, 1946. Well, the Book of Esther is the only book that is not quoted from the Hebrew Bible in the New Testament. Almost the only book that is not quoted. Why is it not quoted? Why is it not mentioned? Passover is mentioned, and Pentecost is mentioned, and Hanukkah is mentioned, and other feasts are mentioned or alluded to, like the Feast of Trumpets, that in modern Judaism we call it Shana, New Year, the Jewish New Year, which is actually not the Jewish New Year. The Jewish New Year biblically is the first of the month of Nisan. Adar, the month that Purim is on, the month that we're on now, 14th of Adar, is the last month of the Hebrew year, biblically. But we brought that tradition on the calendar from Babylon after 70 years of exile in Babylon. When the exiles from the United States return to Israel, they'll bring all kinds of things like them, like kosher bacon made from turkey. In Israel, we don't have it. But when a large number of American immigrants will come, we will have kosher turkey. We may even celebrate the 4th of July when the massive immigration from America comes. And when a massive congregation from South America and Brazil, Jews who were victims of the Inquisition, the Anusim in Hebrew, the Maranos in Portuguese, will return to Israel, God willing, and rebuild the Negev the way Obadiah the prophet prophesies. Then we probably will be eating feijoada kasher in Israel. Yes. But the Book of Esther, the rabbis, for example, in the Talmud, objected to include it in the corpus of the biblical canon. That's why it's not quoted in the New Testament as well. Because Jesus and his disciples were Pharisees, and they, like the other Pharisaic leaders, objected to include the Book of Esther. What was the objection? The major objection is that the name of God is not mentioned in the Book of Esther at all. In no chapter, no verse, God is not mentioned. Second, the Book of Esther condones immorality, condones and doesn't reprimand and doesn't punish somebody who advises a Jewish girl to go and marry a pagan despot like Artaxerxes in English, Hashverosh in Hebrew. So the Book of Esther is there, and the Jewish world celebrates Purim all over the world with great joy, with masks, with food, with eating a pastry that's called Oznei Haman, the ears of Haman. They're kind of Hamantaschen, Northern European cookies in the shape of Chinese fortune cookies, but inside usually there is poppy seed, maybe sometimes dates, and sometimes other things as well, nuts and other things. All these customs are customs. They're not in the Torah, but it's a happy holiday. Why? It has the paradigm of the ultimate Jewish holiday. The enemy wants to kill you, wipe you off the face of the earth. We have victory. Let's go eat. That's the Jewish paradigm, the Jewish formula for celebration of holidays. Not bad. The food is always good. But the Book of Esther is a little bit more complicated than that. And I would like to share some of those complications with you. The first thing that we hear in the Book of Esther is that King Artaxerxes, Hashverosh in Hebrew, has a big celebration. And all the leaders of 127 provinces, countries that were under the rule of Persia at that time. I just to help you understand the size of the Persian Empire. You know Kazakhstan in Asia, in East Asia, one of the rich, big countries. You know what language they speak there? A language akin to Persian. And so do a lot of the stands from there all the way to Iran today. Most of them speak either Turkmen, one or two speak Turkmen, but most of them speak dialects, developments of ancient Persian language. And their culture and their architecture is essentially Persian. Because Persia was a great empire. After Babylon, Persia was the great empire of beginning with Eastern Europe, parts of Turkey, and all the way down to Kazakhstan and almost to the Pacific Ocean. Huge empire. Yes, dear brothers. So the king decided to make a big celebration. And he had a queen, a head queen. He had a harem with lots and lots and lots of beautiful women. And according to the Book of Esther and according to other literature from that period and from Iran, the king could choose any night, any one of the concubines that he had, probably hundreds, maybe thousands, I don't know. Don't know the exact number, but many. So the king has this big party. The ambassadors of 127 countries are there, and they are celebrating, and as it says, their heart was good with wine, or full of wine. Oh, pleased with wine. Depends how you translate that word. They were drunk, in other words. He's celebrating the 3rd year of his reign, inviting all the nobles and all the princes and all the ambassadors of all these countries that he is ruling, and he's showing them his wealth and his power, and he wants to show them the Queen Vashti. She's a beautiful woman, powerful woman, strong woman, and he wants to show off his wife, my dear brothers and sisters. But he tells her to come dressed only in her crown. Here is the text, chapter 1 from verse 10. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Baizata, Harbona, Bikta, Abagta, Zateatar, Karkas, 7 eunuchs who served in the presence of the king Ahasuerus, verse 11 of chapter 1, to bring Queen Vashti before the king wearing her royal crown, in order to show her beauty to the people and the officials, for she was a beautiful to behold. But the Queen Vashti refused to come, as the king commanded, brought by his eunuchs. Therefore the king was furious, and his anger burned. The queen refused to come, wearing only the crown. The king was angry. His other advisors, Karshana, Shatar, Admata, Tarshish, Meres, Marsena, Memukan, 7 princes say to the king and to each other, listen, this won't go. The other women and our wives will learn from the queen that they have the right to tell us, no, we won't do it. It'll bring a revolution, a feminist revolution in the empire, to where the women can do whatever they want. That can't be. That can't happen. We can't allow this to happen. King must do something to punish the queen, not to allow that feminine revolution to happen. Feminine revolutions happen all the time. And in Israel, during this last war that started on the 7th of October of last year, big revolution happened in Israel. Thousands of girls, 18 years old, entered the army and were installed to be fighters, not secretaries of the generals and the officers. Fighters, my dear brothers and sisters, fighters, tankers, pilots. There was before only 1 or 2 pilots, feminine pilots in the Israeli Air Force. Now, and the new courses are full of female who are studying, who are training to be pilots of fighter jets, of F-16s, of F-35s. Big revolution. So the king listens, fears, first of all, what is going to happen in the empire with the women, and how the other men are going to react to his weakness that was not able to bring the queen with her crown, just a crown, to parade in front of all the diplomats from 127 countries. Chapter 1, verse 16, Memukan, one of his servants chief servants, answers before the king and the princes. Queen Vashti has not only wronged the king, but also all the princes and all the people who are in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus. For the queen's behavior will become known to all women, so that they will despise their husbands in their eyes, and they report the King Ahasuerus command Queen Vashti to be brought before him, but she did not come. This very day, the noble ladies of Persia and Media will say to all the king's officials that they have heard the behavior of the queen. Thus, there will be excessive contempt, and wrath. If it please the king, let there be a royal decree out of the kings, and let it be recorded in the laws of the Persian and the Medes, so that they will not be alerted that Vashti shall come no more before the king Ahasuerus, and let the king give her a royal position to another one who is better than she. In other words, get himself a new wife. That's what the advice that the wise men of Persia had for King Ahasuerus, Artaxerxes. Great empire, great warrior king. The letters were sent to all the provinces, and there was a script in every language that each man should be master of his own house and speak the language of his own people, and essentially rule over his household, over his wife. Laws like this have been made by a lot of people. Before marriage and after marriage, we all know our wives are not the head, they're the neck, and they can turn us because of our love for them. We are like putty, and on very seldom occasion can we demand their obedience to our commands. Usually they do it because they love us. That's also good. Praise God. So after these things, Ahasuerus, the king of Persia, remembered what happened with Vashti, was reminded of it, and the king and his servants decide to have a pageant and bring beautiful young ladies from all over the empire in front of him to parade, and he will choose one of them to replace Vashti as the head queen of the empire. That's the Book of Esther. To make the long story short, there is an official in the palace who is a Jew, Mordechai. Mordechai the Jew, the son of Yair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjaminite. In other words, related to the family of Kish, was the family of King Saul, and the family, prominent family in the tribe of Benjamin. And he was carried with the exiles in the time of King Yochaniah, the king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, carried away to exile. And this Mordechai had a niece. I don't know what happened to her parents. Maybe they died. Maybe they remained in Judea. Maybe they were imprisoned. I have no idea. The text doesn't say. He had a niece that he was raising. She was an orphan. The text says that Mordecai, her uncle, raised her because she had neither father nor mother. The young woman was lovely and beautiful. Verse 7 of chapter 2. When her father and mother died, Mordecai took her as his own daughter. So it was that when the king commanded the decree to gather all the beautiful young women in Susa, the capital of Persia, and to have a pageant from which he will choose his queen, Mordecai, the Jew, who was a custodian in some way related to the palace, we don't know exactly what was his job. Maybe he was prime minister, maybe, I don't know. Advises Esther to run for the competition to be the queen of Persia. But he gives us advice to hide her identity as an Israelite, as a Jew, and to behave like a Persian, which practically, what does it mean? She will live in the harem or in the palace. She will not eat kosher. She will sleep with the king according to his whim or desire. A nice Jewish girl. Verse 10 of chapter, Esther had not revealed her people or her family, for Mordecai had charged her not to reveal it. And every day Mordecai, being classical Jew, paced in front of the court of the women's quarters, to learn of Esther's welfare and what was happening to her. In other words, he was not quiet in his own soul about this whole situation. He feared the situation. He was not secure. So every day he spent trying to spy through the windows, through the fence. What's happening with Esther? Is Esther okay? Yeah, that's very classic Jewish. Yeah, very classic Jewish. So every day he paced back and forth on the fence outside the harem to see what he could find out about Esther. Verse 12 of chapter 2. Each young woman turned to come to the king Ahasuerus after she had completed 12 months of preparation, according to the regulations of the women. For thus were the days of this preparation appropriated. 6 months with oil of myrrh, massage with oil of myrrh. 6 months with perfume, preparation of beautifying women. Then prepared each young woman, went to the king, and she was given whatever she desired to take with her from the woman's quarter to the king's palace. In the evening she went, and in the morning she returned to the second house of the women, to the custody of Shashazag, the king's eunuch, who kept the concubines. She would not go in to the king again unless the king delighted in her and called her by name. He said, tonight I want Esther. Tomorrow I want Shula. Next day I want Rina. That's how it worked in those days. It wouldn't work today. Wouldn't work today. And I'm glad. Yeah, that's the situation. When a virgin were gathered together, the second time Mordecai sat with at the king's gate, Now Esther had not revealed her family and her people to the king, just as Mordecai had charged her, for Esther obeyed the command of Mordecai as when she was brought up by him. She was an obedient girl, listened to her uncle who raised her. In those days, while Mordecai sat at the king's gate, two of the king's eunuchs, Bigtan and Teresh, doorkeepers, became furious and sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. In other words, there was a plot between two of the personal guards of the king, Bigtan and Teresh, to eliminate him. Mordecai heard it. And Mordecai told Queen Esther. And Esther informed the king Ahasuerus in the name of Mordecai. And King Ahasuerus commanded to write this in the Book of Chronicles of his kingship, on the history of the king himself. This was written there that Mordecai, the Jew, saved the king by discovering that there is a plot in his court to eliminate him. Then the king's servants who were within the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why do you transgress the king's command?" Now it happened, when they spoke to him daily and would not listen to them, that they told to Haman. Haman was the prime minister of Persia. Or not only the prime minister of Persia, he also came from the region of the land of Israel, because he was an Amalekite. He was a direct descendant of Agag, the king of the Amalekites that King Saul did not kill when Samuel gave the command to kill the kings of the Amalekites and the princes of the Amalekites, and to eliminate their leadership. But King Saul spared Agag, and hundreds of years later, I would say around 400 years, 450, maybe 500 years later, the descendant of this king that King Saul did not kill is prime minister of Persia, and he wants to kill all the Jews in the empire. And he wants all of Persia to pay homage to him. And specifically, he wanted to lay hands on Mordecai the Jew. And he tells the king, listen, let's eliminate those Jews. They're no good. You've got no benefit from them. And here is their problem. First of all, there's people scattered all over the world. They don't have a homeland. They're dispersed among the peoples of the world throughout all your provinces and kingdoms. Number two, their laws like no other people. There's not another nation that has those laws. Those laws which God gave in the Torah. You understand? Those laws which God gave in the Torah. It's very special, very different. Everybody can eat pork, can eat snake, can eat possum. I've eaten possum before when I was a student in Georgia Christian School in early 1960s. Brother Adam, one of the rich people in the city and in the congregation, loved to fish catfish. I went catfish fishing many, many times with him in the swamps down in South Georgia, and ate and cooked catfish and enjoyed every bite of it. It's not tasting bad, it's tasting great. But As a Jew, we are forbidden to eat catfish, or possum, or rattlesnake. Yep, but I had that experience as a student far away from home, kicked out from home because I believe in Yeshua. I ate what they gave me. So their laws are different, and above all, these people don't bow and don't worship any men. They worship an invisible God, creator of heavens of the earth. They don't worship men, folks. Yes. It's not worth for you to have that kind of people around. Pharaoh tried to eliminate the Jewish people in the days of Moses, hundreds of years earlier. And since then, we've had empires that wanted to eliminate us, dear brothers and sisters. Empires, big empires. And as of late, we had Nazi Germany that decided to wipe out the Jews of Europe, maybe of the world if they could. And now we have Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, who in their charter, in their constitution, dear brothers and sisters, in their constitution, one of the articles of the constitution of Hamas is to wipe out Israel as a country, as a nation, as a Jewish nation. Yes, Purim is a very important holiday because it reminds us of these things that are historical and recorded and known. And here is my take on this. Folks, if there's no Jews, there's no Jesus. If there's no Jerusalem in the hands of Jews, what is that? Jesus is going to land in an Arab country? They'll kill him immediately again. Instead of crowning him with the crown of David, sitting him on the throne of David in Jerusalem, they will kill him again. These people don't care. They want to eliminate Israel. They want to eliminate the kingdom of Israel. They want to stop Jesus from coming back home. Building an earthly kingdom, judging the world in righteousness. That's what they want. They're not going to get it because there is a God, and the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is the God of Israel. And Jesus sitting at his right hand and giving him advice and conversing with him and convincing him that the time is coming close to return to Jerusalem in the land of Israel. And the Israeli boots, that is taken directly from the New Testament, folks, from the Gospel of Luke. Yes, there will be no foreign armies in Jerusalem when Jesus comes. It will be an Israelite army. The IDF, Israel Defense Forces, they will rule Mount Olives, Mount Zion, Mount Scopus, Jerusalem, the land of Israel, from river to river. Yes, as God promised Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Moses and the prophets and Ezekiel. Yes, we believe in the Bible. And it's going to happen like what we are seeing was prophesied and is happening. Yes. So, Haman is trying to convince the king that it's not worth to keep these people alive. Mordecai hears this, and he's got to reach the queen. got to reach the queen, and convince her to take a stand and intervene for her people, reveal the king who she really is, and intervene for her people, for the people of Israel, and tell the king this is not going to happen. But the king heard Haman, his prime minister, and in chapter 3, verse 12, decrees the scribes to write the letter to all the provinces of Persia, 127 provinces of Persia, a letter saying, get rid of the Jews. With his signet, with the king's signet. I'm reading you verse 13 of chapter 3 of the Book of Esther. And the letters were sent by couriers into the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, to annihilate all the Jews, both young and old, little children, women, in one day, on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their possessions. A copy of this document was issued as a law in every province, being published for all people. The day should be ready for that day. That's the day. The 13th of Adar is today. So these letters go out. Mordechai learns of what the king has published, what the king has done, that he listened to Haman. He tears his clothes in mourning, in sadness, like one does when a relative dies, puts on sackcloth and ashes, and goes to the middle of the city, and with a loud and bitter voice cries. He went as far as the front of the king's gate, for no one might enter the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province where the king's decree arrived, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting and weeping and wailing, and many put on sackcloth to wear. So Esther is still in the king's harem. She's still the king's favorite concubine. She's very distressed. But she didn't want her uncle to wear sackcloth and to be mourning, because that would shed a bad light on her. So she sends nice clothes to her uncle to change from sackcloth to regular nice clothes, normal clothes. Yeah, that's what she does. But Mordechai tells one of the eunuchs that works there in the harem that Haman had given a large sum of money to the king's treasury in order to get the permission to wipe out, destroy all the Jews. Wow. He also gave a copy of the decree of their destruction, which he as Prime Minister of Persia issued. And he wanted this eunuch to go to Queen Esther, and give her a copy of that letter and explain to her that he might command her to go into the king to make supplication, to beg the king to let him plead before him for her people. So Hatach, the eunuch, returns and tells Esther what Mordechai said. And Esther spoke to Hathach and gave him command for Mordechai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that any man or woman who goes into the inner court to the king, who had not been called, invited, he has been but one law: put him to death, except the one to whom the king holds his golden scepter, that he may live. Yet I myself have not been called. I'm not invited to go today to the king. I can't go. Mordechai tells Esther the following words, very important words, chapter 4, verse 13. And Mordechai told the servants to answer Esther, do not think in your heart that you will escape the king's palace any more than all the other Jews. For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. Yet, who knows whether you have come to the kingdom exactly for such a time as this? This point is very important for all of us. You know, we all have ups and downs and needs and illnesses and victories and failures in our lives. But when the challenge comes, when our lives, my dear brothers and sisters, are threatened, mine have been threatened. I've had 3 attempts to kill me in Israel, in Jerusalem, by ultra Orthodox Jews who hate Christians, who hate Jewish disciples of Yeshua. Yes, I've had that happen. Molotov cocktails in my living room, tampering with my car so that I would have a wreck and die, loosening one of the front right wheel of my car. Luckily, the wheel fell, broke. I was going only 5 kilometers an hour, about 2 miles an hour speed. So yes, the car was damaged with thousands of dollars of damage, but I didn't die. And there was no wreck. So I know in my heart that God gave me life 3 times for such a time as this, a time in which anti-Semitism is grown with 270% in the last couple of years. And this war in Gaza has made it rise dramatically. Harvard University, other Ivy League universities in America allow demonstrations against Israel and violence against their Jewish students. 70% of Harvard's wealth came from wealthy Jews who contributed to Harvard. Endowments, scholarships, buildings. Yes, who knows, but if you that hear me speak right now were not born for such a time as this to take the side of Israel, because Jesus is the King of the Jews, not the king of the Persians. Jesus was circumcised on the 8th day, dedicated in the temple as a Jew, died as the King of the Jews. How could you as Christians, it's a valid question, how could you as Christians hate Jews? If you hate Jews, you hate Jesus also. Yes, sir. Very important for you to know that. If you hate the brothers of Jesus, the Jewish people, you hate Jesus because he is the King of the Jews, not only a Jew. He's the King of the Jews. Don't ever forget that. He's not an American, not French, not European, definitely not a Roman Catholic. There's no record of him ever visiting Rome, much less being a Catholic. So Esther is convinced, to make the whole story short, that she has to do something. So what can she do as the queen? She invites the king for a party. But she asked the king to invite also Haman, the evil Haman, into this party. And Haman is happy. Oh, the queen invited me. What a privileged person I am. Haman, I am so special. I am special. I am wonderful. I am do-do-da-dee-dee-dee-dum. Yes, he was probably singing that song. C'est moi, c'est moi. Yeah, who can be like me? That's what Hamas felt. So he comes to the party. And the king comes to the party. He goes to the party, to the banquet. And at the banquet, in chapter 5, verse 6, at the banquet of wine, the king said to Esther, "What is your petition? What do you want?" King is happy. "It shall be granted you. What is your request? Up to half the kingdom, it shall be done." Esther answered and said, "My petition and request is this: if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, then let the king and Haman come to the banquet, which I will prepare for them. Tomorrow I will do it as the king has said." So Haman went out that day joyful, glad-hearted. He went shopping. He got himself new clothes. He got himself perfume. Maybe a Tom Ford perfume that has kind of a risque name. I'm not going to name him now, but it's in the Tom Ford collection. Fabulous, something fabulous. And he's ready to go, dressed up to the party. Just him, the queen, and the king will celebrate together with good wine. But before he goes to the party, it says, verse 10, "Nevertheless, Haman restrained himself and went home, and he sent and called for his friends and for his wife Zeresh. Then Haman told them of his great riches and multitude of his children, everything in which the king had prompted him, and how he had progressed about the official servant of the king. Moreover, Haman said, beside the queen, Esther invited no one but me to come with the king to the banquet that she prepared, and tomorrow I am again invited by her, alone with the king. Yet all this avails me nothing as long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate." In other words, the only thing that bothers me is that there is one Jew sitting at the king's gate. That bothers me. And his wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, "Let the gallows be made 50 cubits high, and in the morning suggest to the king that Mordecai be hung on it. Then go merrily with the king to the banquet." And things pleased Haman. He was glad for this advice to get rid of Mordecai. Well, to make the long story short, he goes to the banquet, drinks wine. The king goes to the banquet, drinks wine. Haman goes to the queen's bedroom, and the king finds Haman in the queen's bedroom. The queen wasn't there, but found Haman in the king's bedroom waiting for the queen. I don't know if he was dressed or naked, but he finds him there. And of course, the king is furious. He doesn't know what to do. That's his prime minister. I'm going to read you chapter 6, verse 6 and 7. So Haman came in, and the king asked him, what shall be done to the man after he finds him in the queen's bedroom? What shall be done to the man whom the king delights to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, whom would the king delight to honor more than me? C'est moi, c'est moi. I am pleased to confess there is nobody else but me. Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delights to honor, let the royal robe be brought which the king has worn, and the horse on which the king has ridden, which has royal crest placed on his head, and let this robe and horse be delivered to the hand of the one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man whom the king delights to honor. Then parade him on horseback through the streets and the squares and the center of Susa. Thus shall be done, and the men will proclaim over, and thus shall be done to the man whom the king delights to honor. That's Haman's advice, because he thought that was going to be him. He's the guy that's going to be sitting on the king's horse, wearing the king's clothes, and be honored as the one that the king wants to honor. He didn't realize that it's going to be Mordechai the Jew. Haman had prepared a tree to hang Mordechai and 9 other Jews in his yard, in his palace, in his house. And he thought now that it's going to be Mordechai leading the horse, and he's going to be on top of the horse. You know what happened? The exact opposite. I'm shortening the time because this is getting a little long. He thought, this is going to be me. I'm going to be on top of the horse. Mordechai is going to be leading the horse. But Haman discovers that Mordechai the Jew, because the king had some of the annals read for him, and the reader read how Mordechai saved the king, how Mordechai was able to hear the plot that Bigtan and Teresh, his guards, were making to kill him, and he will be killed. The king will be killed. And he tells that to the officials, and they record it in the books, and these books are read exactly at that night, and the king understands that Mordechai is the righteous man, and Haman is the evil man. And he parades Haman through the streets of Susa. Mordechai, is wearing the royal clothes and the royal gown and the royal horse, and Haman is walking. But when he goes home to his wife Haman goes home to his wife and to his children, and they expect to receive Haman as a victor, as a winner. They found out that not. And then comes the last scenes of the Book of Esther. Haman and his 10 sons are hung on the tree that he built to hang Mordechai on top and the Jewish elite down. Haman and his family are destroyed. A letter goes out. A letter goes out to all the empires for the Jews to celebrate. Eat good, fat food, sweet food, and celebrate the fall of Haman. Hallelujah. This is Book of Esther. This is Purim. This is Purim where the Jews win and their enemies are destroyed. We need that kind of victory again. We need the rulers of the free world to realize who they are dealing with when they are dealing with the Hamas and with the Hezbollah and with Iran. We need Europe to wake up and understand that if they don't wake up, and if Christians don't wake up and rededicate their lives to God and to Jesus and to the Bible and get filled with love for each other and unity for each other, and especially respect and love for Israel and the Jewish people that have contributed so much to Western civilization and continue to contribute even in this technological age. If they don't realize that, Europe will enter into another period of hundreds of years of dark ages, ruled by Islam, made slaves of the Muslims. Yes, sir, that's going to happen if you don't wake up. United States, Christian churches, so-called Christian countries, it's time to wake up. Don't listen to the Hamans of this world. Listen to Jesus and the apostles from God's word. Listen to Isaiah the prophet, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Joel, Hosea, Amos, all the way to Zechariah. And remember that the prophecy says that the nations will have to send their ambassadors to Jerusalem on the Feast of Sukkot every year. So what? So that they will have rain in their countries. Yes, sir. I believe every word in the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, to the end of Revelation. I hope you do too. But if you believe the Bible, you gotta stand with Israel and fight anti-Semitism, fight the Hamans of this world who want to wipe out and destroy the Jews, all the Jews around the world. May God have mercy. Bless you. In Yeshua's name. Amen.
Help others, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.